Good morning. I am Mary Salvadore, a Grey Nun of the Sacred Heart, and my ministry as a Grey Nun was physical therapy, and I worked in long-term rehabilitation. At some point, though, I decided to take a break from rehab, and I worked in home care, which I did for 3 years. My main area of Philadelphia was North Philly and sometimes West Philly. But one day my supervisor asked if I would go to Port Richmond to work with a child who had leukemia. Well, I wanted to say no because I generally did not work with children. However, my supervisor said she thought the experience would be good for both the patient and for me. So of course, that meant I had to say, okay. I'm going to call the patient Jane for confidentiality. When I arrived at Jane's house, I saw a young woman on a bed on the first floor in the living room. Jane was a junior in high school. I think it was West Catholic High School. Both her parents were there and expressed that they hoped PT would help Jane and make her strong enough to get back to school. Jane's younger brother was also present. The family was quite warm and welcoming, and they made me feel really at ease. Jane was very weak and debilitated. Her illness was severe, and she had already endured heavy-duty treatments, including chemotherapy. On my initial evaluation, she presented as being limited to being in bed. That was her only place that she could be, is in bed. She was very weak. She could not roll to her side, and she could not sit up on the bedside unsupported. She actually needed total assistance for almost everything. I could see that day that her family was very devoted and committed to help Jane in any way that I suggested. Her father even made a transfer board like the commercial one that I showed him. Actually, he made it even better than the one I had. Jane worked hard at everything we did. I know she did the exercises I gave her for homework, and I could see her progress each time that I went to see her. Eventually, she could roll side to side, and then she was able to sit up on the bedside unsupported. After weeks, she was strong enough to stand, just to stand at the bedside with assistance. But eventually, she was able to walk with a walker with me holding her for support. Jane mentioned early on that when she could go back to school, eventually she wanted to become a nurse. As time went on, Jane did achieve the goals that we set together on our first PT visit. Eventually, Jane did get back to high school, but I still kept praying for healing for her. Years later, when I worked at Thomas Jefferson University Hospital in Philadelphia, I was reading a chart and documenting on a patient I had just worked with. I looked above my note that I wrote, and I saw a name of a nurse. I wondered, could it be? Could that be Jane? I asked the nurse, a different nurse in that area, if that could be Jane. And wow, she said, yes, it is. Well, I was so happy. I just couldn't believe it, that it could really be Jane. And I anticipated meeting her and seeing how she was. It was very incredible. But Jane worked on a different shift, so I could not see her that day. But I did make somewhat of an arrangement that I could meet with her the next day. What an exciting moment. She had accomplished her dream. She became a nurse. And for me, it was truly a blessing to see her healthy and able, and even with a full head of hair now. What I have learned from working in long-term rehab with persons who have such severe illness, disability, and even those very near to death, is that the human spirit is incredible. What spunk, what resilience a person can have. What I need is that same kind of spirit, the spirit that I have also gleaned from St. Marguerite Duval, who inspires me always. No matter what the challenge may be, faith, hope, and love, especially, can help us through the most difficult of life's challenges. God has blessed me. I have met other wonderful people in my ministry, my colleagues and coworkers who I will always cherish, were a constant inspiration to me. To be part of healing another person is to help to heal myself. God has blessed me, and I thank St. Marguerite. I thank Jane and her family and all my colleagues for their inspiration. And I thank God for all that I needed to minister as a physical therapist. It was all a blessing. Amen.